Welcome back to a new episode. The work on our house is soon finished, and inside the barn we're continuing the work with the keel grid.
So the tape measure that I have placed permanently now in the ceiling, it's glued in place. It's a pretty accurate one. And since the ceiling is in parallel to the waterline, I can use that tape measure very accurately to get the lengthwise position of all the different beams and later on also all the bulkheads. And since I'm placing the laser like this along the center line of the boat in an X like this, I also get the correct 90-degree angle across here for the placement of the floor beam. What's your plan for today?
My plan for today is to start preparing the sides of the hull on the inside, sand those down to the waterline because we're gonna apply a coat of barrier coat like this. So it's gonna look the same as it does here on the inside. So we start down to the waterline because below the waterline we're working on the keel grid now, and we're gonna laminate some more there and sand. So we wait with the barrier coat for that area for now.
So I've made an inventory of all the timber that we have here in the barn. And it turns out that we have more species of mahogany, or not really mahogany, but what's called mahogany than I initially thought. There's really only one genuine mahogany, and that's the big leaf mahogany from Central America, South America. And that's really hard to get nowadays since it's been logged pretty heavily in the past. So for those of you who think that we're making the keel grid from genuine mahogany, that's not the case. We're making it from African mahogany. And from Africa you can get many different types of what's called mahogany, even if it's just a relative to genuine mahogany, like a cousin. And there's Sippo, Kaya, and Sapele, and I think there's some more of them. But mainly that's what you can get, at least here in Europe, that it's a substitute for genuine mahogany. And initially I thought that we only had Sippo, Kaya, and some genuine mahogany here in the barn. And my plan was to do the keel grid from Kaya mahogany and maybe some Sippo. But it turns out that we also have some Sapele, and that's a vastly better timber for making the keel grid from. So I have decided to change and do it from Sapele instead. It's a bit more heavy than genuine mahogany and also Kaya and Sippo, but it's also a lot stronger and more rot resistant. Not that that matters that much, the rot resistance, since the whole keel grid will be encapsulated and we won't have any water inside the boat. But if we, for some reason, would have like a breach of the fiberglass and have water in the boat, it's of course nice to have a timber that is really rot resistant. So that's why I've decided to change to Sapele. And it's also a lot stronger than Kaya mahogany. It's in par with white oak in rot resistance and strength. Actually even a bit stronger than white oak per unit of weight, since it's not as heavy as white oak. And I know that some of you are thinking that it's a waste to use this type of timber for the keel grid. But to me, I want to build this keel grid to last from the best timber that we can use. And Sapele and Kaya mahogany and Sippo isn't that expensive. Actually, white oak is more expensive than all of them. Sapele here in Sweden is readily available, and it's around $4,000 per cubic meter. And white oak is around $4,500, so a little bit more expensive. And to be honest, all type of timber nowadays comes with a pretty hefty price tag if you want to have some quality. For instance, the western red cedar that we have in the hall, old growth, that would cost around $8,000 to $9,000 per cubic meter here in Sweden nowadays. So yeah, good quality timber nowadays is expensive. So to me, it's really no waste using this type of timber for the Keel grid. We already have it here in the barn. We don't have to sell it and then buy something else. And in my opinion, this is actually better than to use white oak since it bonds so well with epoxy. And that's really important because we want to have a really good bond with the Keel grid to the hull and also later on with the glass going over it. And even if it will be glassed in, and some people say that that's a waste, the timber is still in there with all its good properties, and that's why I want to have it there. I don't want to use a low quality type of timber in this area on the hull since it's so important. And just to remind everyone, of course, it would have been different if we would have had to pay full price for all of this timber. We got lucky and we found all of this timber in a barn for a very good price. We paid $8,500 for everything that we have here in the barn. And it's been sitting in that barn for over 30 years. So it's not that this timber has been cut and logged today. And I know that I have already talked about this in a past episode, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, again, why we are choosing to have timber in the Keel grid. Comparing it to having like a foam sandwich grid with the foam core with glass over it, that creates a really light and stiff structure. But that's not the only thing that we're looking for with this Keel grid. I want to have a grid that is stiff, but also has a lot of ultimate strength and toughness for when we will go aground with this boat in the future. So that's why I'm thinking that this Keel grid will be stronger than one with only like a sandwich construction. It will be heavier. This Keel grid will be roughly 150 to 170 kilos heavier, but it will also be a lot tougher. And there's also some details about the keel connection that I will get into in a later episode, where it's beneficial to have this wood core for the connection, to make that whole connection really bulletproof. So I just wanted to show you how hard it is to see the difference between these types of different mahoganies. So here you have 3 different species. This is Kaya mahogany. It's a little bit lighter, around 550 kilos per cubic meter. And then we have a piece of genuine mahogany, real mahogany, a little bit heavier, around 587 kilos per cubic meter. Very similar in color, but less of these black streaks, if you can see that. And then we have Sapele, a little bit more brown, reddish, and a lot heavier. This is 672 kilos per cubic meter.
Johan starts with ripping the plank into thinner pieces with a track saw. Then the pieces go through the planer to get an even thickness. Once they're planed, Johan cuts the different lengths needed with a miter saw. The sanding didn't really go as planned yesterday. It's so slippery inside the hull on the sides, so I couldn't reach, just slide down all the time. I tried to go as high as I could reach, but it was actually getting harder and harder when I was going aft. I tried to put this double-sided tape on over the shoes, but it lasted for like 2 minutes. Then it was full of dust, so it didn't help anymore. Johan, he can reach higher, so maybe he has to take some of the parts. And we might have to go from the outside as well, so use a ladder and then go down to reach. So I've reached a bit aft of the chain plate reinforcements on that side and all the way up to here on this side. I think I will start from aft now and move forward, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of planning to keep the waist down. I've been taking measurements for each and every floor beam, just roughly, so there's enough timber for the profile to be cut. So you want to keep the waist low, but not too low, so you're getting close to making a mistake.
Johan uses a biscuit joiner to prevent the pieces from sliding when they get clamped together.
So all the markings are now made for the keel grid, except the stringers, the lengthwise part of the keel grid. But all the floor beams, the position of those are now in place, the markings, so I can start making the scanning. And I will start in the front with number 10 and move my way aft. And maybe I said this before, but this time I will try to make 2 scans per beam, one in the front and one in the aft, to make the fit even more accurate. I have glued up the sapele for number 10, 9 and 8, so I will scan those tonight so I can start cutting them tomorrow once they're cured. Yeah, one thing I like with this scanner is that it's pretty hands-on and simple. I think I have it pretty much lined up now. I'll just check if it's... All right, there we have it. So I just set the start angle and the end angle and then hit start, so it's pretty simple. So right now I'm scanning the front of the first floor beam, number 10. And I'm using a lot more points this time than I did the last time I used this. So it's taking a bit longer to do the scan, but the cutting file will also be a lot better this way, so it's worth the extra time. So the first scan is now complete, and I have the cutting file here. So I will just name this floor number 10 front. All right, time to do the next scan.
The next morning, Johan removed the clamps and started the process of shaping the floor beams. First, he runs them through the jointer to remove excess glue and to make them flat. And then through the planer to get the other side flat and in parallel. Next step is to use the cutting file from the scan, together with the shaper CNC router to cut the profile.
It's almost unbelievable how nice it is to work with this timber, sapele. Almost no wear on the tools and it cuts like butter. It's so nice to work with.
The bandsaw makes it quick and easy to remove the excess. Johan runs the flush trim bit along the profile to get the correct shape over the full width. Three floor beams done and one that's not pictured, so only 6 more to go now.
It actually works quite okay, ripping with this small track saw. The only downside is that I have to do it from 2 sides, but it's a lot easier than to handling these big planks in the rip saw. And also with the track saw there's a lot less waste since the blade is more narrow. And it's, you know, you have a bit more control this way. So with big, thick, heavy planks like this, it's yeah, there are some benefits by using this actually. So 3 more floor beams in place, this time with limber holes in the middle that I will talk a little bit more in a future episode, how we will deal with that. And then we have the first floor beam here from Kaya, and I'm thinking now that I will replace this so we will have the same timber throughout the keel grid, sapele. And I have ripped and planed enough sapele so I can make 4 more before I need to rip and plane more. So I'll start to glue that up today, but that will be for next week's episode. So this is as far as I can go this week. So as always, thanks a lot for watching, and we hope to see you back here next Friday. And a massive thank you to all of you who contribute to our videos and our production in different ways. And if you want to support our videos, you can do that by becoming a patron. There is a link in the description below. Take care. Bye bye.